Hello friends, it's Dave here from SaveDex, here with another video in our run-up to E3, discussing what we could be seeing from Nintendo. Last time we talked about the Mario franchise, and today we're going to be talking about Donkey Kong. And to talk about Donkey Kong with me, we have got a very special guest, Geoffrey from the Indie Gaming Guild.
Hey there, Dave. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about Donkey Kong with you. And although my channel, of course, is all about indie games, it doesn't mean that I don't also play plenty of other AAA games, and I play a lot of Nintendo games with my wife. And specifically, we've played a lot of Donkey Kong, so I'm excited to chat about this with you. Thank you for having me.
Good. Well, we're talking about it on my channel, so this is legal. It's legit. Yeah, and exactly. I recently played through Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze as well, which I love that game. So basically, I wouldn't have normally had a dedicated video for Donkey Kong to talk about, but there's been rumours recently, and I think the Lonely Goomba's the one that started it, saying that there's going to be a new Donkey Kong game made by the team that made Super Mario Odyssey. So the Donkey Kong Country games were originally made by Rare, and then Retro made the Returns and Tropical Freeze. Mm-hmm. And now we're getting, obviously Retro are working on Metroid Prime 4, we know that now, but we have no clue what they were working on in between. And now we've been waiting for, like, is there going to be a Mario Odyssey 2 or anything like that? But now we know the team, or we've heard the team are making a new Donkey Kong game. Has that been what they've been doing since 2017? And is it ready to be shown in a few weeks' time?
It's honestly so crazy to think about, all of these big, exciting Nintendo releases, specifically around the whole Donkey Kong thing, because, I think a lot of people want, a Super Mario Odyssey 2 or something like that, and chances are Nintendo will do that. But the fact that Donkey Kong might be coming back in some return to form, especially after how much people like Tropical Freeze, I personally loved that one as well. It's really exciting. So I'm curious to hear what you think about what might be coming from all of this.
Well, on the topic of Mario Odyssey as well, because we had 3D World out this year, I think maybe another 3D Mario can wait a bit longer. So I'm happy for Donkey Kong to take the center stage next on Nintendo's platforming scene. Because it has been, 2014 was when Tropical Freeze came out. It did get ported to Switch, but it's been 7 years since the last new Donkey Kong game. So one of the rumours going into this is that it won't carry the country name, which is interesting. And there's also some rumours saying it's going to be a 3D game, and some saying it's going to be a 2D game. So my question to you is, what do you think we'll see if it's a 2D game but not Donkey Kong Country?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, and let me know if this is correct. So I thought I heard something when all of this kind of rumor mill stuff was going around, or is going around, is that Nintendo, obviously it's a Nintendo internal studio, that they don't want to go with the country moniker because they don't want to, it's not something that they originally made. Is that correct? Is that part of why they wanted to maybe just make it their own thing, because they didn't have their hand in it necessarily?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't know the exact quote, but I think it's along the lines of they don't want to make a sequel to a game they didn't make.
Which is just kind of crazy, but it makes sense. I mean, they're very protective of their games and properties, so it's not surprising. But it's hard to think of what a 2D Donkey Kong game would be like, because most of them do carry that Donkey Kong Country name, so it's hard. I personally would actually, and hopefully this doesn't deviate from your question too much, but would rather see them do a similar to like a Donkey Kong 64. Now, I know a lot of people didn't necessarily like that in comparison to the 2D country games, but I feel like if they're going to drop the country, which does have to do with a lot of the 2D or 2.5D, maybe doing like an actual all-out 3D platformer surrounding Donkey Kong and his friends might be the way to go. But that's kind of my thoughts. I guess I'm curious to hear your take on this. I would actually more rather see a 3D game from them.
Yeah, I agree with you that I would rather see a 3D game as well. Obviously, we have a lot of 3D platformers as well on Switch, but Donkey Kong, we've seen a lot of 2D recently. But it's weird that when Retro did their country series of 2 games now, they did their own thing with it, but it was still unmistakably Donkey Kong Country and kept the name, even though it had, you got Diddy on your back and you could jetpack with him. That wasn't from the original series. That makes it its own thing.
Right.
Because that was a big gameplay changer there. But it was still called Donkey Kong Country. It was unmistakably. But it depends. How can you do a 2D Donkey Kong game without it being obviously country? And did you ever play Donkey Kong Jungle Beat?
I didn't know. So I didn't play. Basically, I think I had kind of skipped the gap of like the Wii, and the Wii U obviously was Tropical Freeze first, but I kind of skipped that whole gap in between of like GameCube, Wii, Donkey Kong games. So, I missed out on a lot of these unique ones, but I think people, if it's a 2D one, people, even if it's not the country name, people are going to think that automatically, right? If it's still a traditional stage-based thing, but I guess the only thing they could do is like a Metroidvania type thing. And I know that sounds cliche, but like if they mixed up the formula enough that it's not just a stage-based Donkey Kong game, maybe that would help people to not think it's just in the same series. But what about the Donkey Kong Jungle Beat? Kind of go off of that. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on maybe what they would do differently.
It's because the thing about Donkey Kong Jungle Beat was a very unique game because it was controlled with the bongos. I don't know if you knew that.
I did, yeah. I heard about that. Did you play that? How was it?
Oh yes, I own it. I loved it. It was very simplistic, just 4 inputs you could do. But do not play it before a driving lesson. I learnt because it was hard to drive a car when your hands were that sore. But that's a
good message for everyone to be aware of.
Even without the bongo controls, if you're using a normal controller, which I think was possible. And obviously they made it for the Wii as well with motion controls, but it did look different to Donkey Kong Country and had a sort of different tone to it.
I'm just curious I guess I'm just curious what you think on this. Because Nintendo being Nintendo, often when they try something new, we've seen Labo, we've seen them, experiment with that. We've seen them experiment with the bongos, like you said. Do you think if they did, or if they are doing this with a 2D one, do you think they would make it some sort of like a peripheral based game, or do you think they just try to keep it more controller based?
Thing is, I think the Joy-Cons are gimmicky enough that they could do something, but I do feel like they could, if they don't want to make it like a country game, then I feel like they could go the gimmicky route with it, which
people might like that.
Which could turn a lot of people off. They try and attract a new audience that way, but then they put off the older audience.
Very true. But anyway, what about the 3D that you were thinking?
So I personally love Donkey Kong 64. And even before sort of like the YouTube generation sort of got their hands on it, I think so when the Wii U Virtual Console came out on there was a lot of younger people that had never played it on the N64. It was their first time experiencing it. And even before that happened, even like 5 years ago before that, I played through it on the N64 again. And I knew then that the game hadn't really aged that well.
Right.
And so I can imagine younger people going into it now there's like too many collectibles, and there's other things like the typical N64 era, it shows its age, gets a bit dated, that sort of thing. But I think I'd like to see a remake of Donkey Kong 64, and there's a few quick fixes they could do, and like toning down the collectibles, for example, or being able to switch your Kongs on the fly without needing to go back to a barrel would eliminate a lot of the problems people have with that game.
Sure.
And but yeah, I'd like to see a new 3D Donkey Kong game in the vein of Donkey Kong 64, but not quite as big.
It would be really exciting to see what a return to that would be, because we haven't really seen, I don't think there has been another 3D Donkey Kong since that, right?
No, I don't think there has. But when you're thinking, though, how the Mario Odyssey team, obviously they sort of made other Mario games before that, but how Mario Odyssey reinvented sort of like the Mario Collectathon, sort of did something new with it in a way. Could Donkey Kong do that as well?
I mean, I think at this point they almost have to, because Donkey Kong 64, even though you said you like it, I like it, it kind of has to reinvent the wheel to some extent, just because that is a polarizing game. But also at the same token, a lot of people that are playing the Switch and things and from the Wii U, maybe you're younger, never actually played Donkey Kong 64, so it might be a good time to get them on board. But, I actually only recently played through the entirety of Donkey Kong 64 with my wife in the last few years, and we still enjoyed it. Yes, it's dated. Yes, there's some bad design decisions nowadays, but it's still a great game. And people on your channel know, Dave, right? You love Yooka-Laylee, especially the first one, and I do as well. So I think if they kind of stuck with maybe even that route of like, your traditional world and stage base, but have like a hub world that you can explore in more detail, I feel like it could be really polished, but you're right. They'd have to get rid of some of just the traditional collecting everything if there's no point for it.
Yeah, and I wonder whether King K. Rool being in Smash is going to help rejuvenate people's interest in the Kremlin side, because that's one of the rumors as well, I think, that the Kremlins will be back.
I mean, they're one of those classic enemies, and he's obviously a classic boss, especially for a lot of older players like us, so that would be exciting if they incorporated it. What do you think that they would need to do differently enough to maybe encourage people that didn't like Donkey Kong 64?
Well, like I said before, I think if they sort of, I don't know how to pronounce this word, so I'm making it up now, Odyssified it.
Sounds like a word, sure.
So sort of made it like Mario Odyssey in the fact that sort of had that sort of structure to it, but obviously you'd have different, like more jungly themed worlds.
Yeah.
Because the whole setting of Donkey Kong 64 and even the country games, they sort of fit in the same. Like comparing Donkey Kong Country to the 2D Mario games, like all the platforms and things you can interact with, they're contextual. You don't get any. No platforms are just floating magically, like it's part of the tree in the background, or even if there is a floating platform, there's like a rocket below it showing that it's hovering that way, and stuff like that. So everything there is sort of part of the world.
It is. That's a good point. I actually never even thought about it that way. Whereas old Mario games and a lot of older Donkey Kongs and a lot of platformers in general, you just have random elements that obviously don't make sense, but we just kind of accept it because it's a video game, but interweaving that thing, interweaving that idea into a 3D Donkey Kong like they did in Odyssey would be really cool, and it would kind of set it apart from other platformers too. Another
thing is, though, we're talking about like the different kinds of platformers, which is what the rumours are suggesting, but one thing I would like to see is, do you remember when the GameCube was coming out, there was a trailer for a game called Donkey Kong Racing?
Yes, I do remember that.
And it obviously got cancelled because Rare went to Microsoft. Like, yes. I've been wanting for ages like another Diddy Kong Racing, which could happen because Nintendo, with just the Donkey Kong characters, you can't use obviously Banjo Conquer and all that, but I'd like to see, maybe it's not a platformer. Maybe we could see something else from Donkey Kong.
It's funny you say that. I didn't want to ruin the theme of the video, but the entire time before we were going to talk about this, that's what I was thinking is Diddy Kong Racing, for me personally, I liked more than Mario Kart growing up. So if they did some sort of a retooling of that or something in that vein, that would be incredible. But I guess I worry, though, because there's also been rumors about Mario Kart 9 maybe coming out this year, if that's even a thing. So if it was going to be a racing one, obviously they wouldn't pit those two together. But yeah, you're right, Dave. That would be awesome if they did that. Maybe a Donkey Kong Battle Royale. That would be different. No, don't do that.
Definitely. Okay, but the other aspect of the Donkey Kong franchise as a whole, imagining any Donkey Kong games out there that aren't country could be like the ones where he's with Mario.
You mean like
the Mario versus Donkey Kong, or like the original Donkey Kong, or like Donkey Kong 94? Maybe we're going to get a Donkey Kong game where you're playing as Mario and Donkey Kong's the villain.
Oh, that's a pretty spicy take. You think they would do that, though, or do you think they'd want to keep DK as the focal point, though? It's hard to say.
I would hope that DK was the character he plays in it, but it's just something they could do, because they do like making Mario games, this team, so...
That would be an interesting take on it, for sure. It would definitely mix up something we haven't seen in years upon years, so I like that idea.
Especially when you consider New Donk City was heavily based on the original Donkey Kong at times.
So maybe it's foreshadowing that that's going to happen. We're going to see DK up on the tower like you've seen in King Kong.
they revived Pauline in that game as a established character, and she's in all the spin-offs now.
So maybe this has all been foreshadowed. Nintendo have been planning this for like 30 years, that this is what it was leading to.
Maybe you play as Pauline. Who knows?
Well, I think if they don't, you need to call Nintendo personally and let them know your ideas.
Cool. So out of everything we've said, what would be your ultimate preferred reveal for Donkey Kong at E3?
Ultimate preferred reveal would be a Donkey Kong Racing or a Diddy Kong Racing, because that would just be incredible. Second would be just an actual 3D Donkey Kong game, followed by a 2D one. You didn't ask for top 3, but those are my top 3. What about you? What order, or how would you like to see them come out if they revealed it?
My preferred would be the 3D platformer. In sort of like the vein of maybe a blend between Donkey Kong 64 and Mario Odyssey. You know, sort of like the quality of life improvements of Odyssey with like the selection of different Kongs you can play as in Donkey Kong 64. The racing game second. I'd only put the 2D game lower down just because we've already got one on the Switch.
And it's a good one. And it's a good one that I think people already love. So there's not really a need for a second one right now.
Yeah, exactly.
We will see. We will see very soon. Hopefully they'll reveal something in June with E3 around that. Yeah,
definitely. And speaking of E3, it's still coming up, and I've got a few more franchises to talk about. So thank you for joining me with this discussion, Geoffrey. Let people know where they can find you.
Thank you so much, Dave. I really do appreciate you inviting me on. Even though my channel, the Indie Gaming Guild, specializes in indies, it does mean a lot for you to have me on and talk about Nintendo, because it's such a fun conversation, especially with the thought of DK. But if anyone's interested in some fun indie game reviews and live streams and gameplay, you can head on over to the Indie Gaming Guild, and we'd love to have you over there. But thanks for having me, Dave.
Not at all. It's a rare treat because, again, you're talking about non-indie games here. It's a once in a lifetime chance that was.
Thank you for the opportunity. It means a lot.
Yeah. So everyone subscribe to Geoffrey to keep up with his videos. He does some great stuff there, and make sure you hit that subscribe. The next video I'm putting up on this series is going to regard the Zelda anniversary, what they could show for that. So look forward to that. So thanks for watching, everyone. See you in the next one.